Elias moved around the gym like a shadow. He pushed his mop slowly across the dirty floor. There was sweat on the ground from all the fighters. Elias had been working in this gym for many years, but most of the fighters didn't even notice him. To them, Elias was just part of the background, like a chair or a wall. Just there. They walked past him, dropped their sweaty towels at his feet, and never said hello or thank you. Elias never got mad. He never looked upset. He just kept cleaning day after day. He never talked much. He just did his job. That evening, the gym was still busy. People were punching big bags. Some were hitting small mitts with their coaches. And some were sitting, talking about their fights. Zane, the bully. One of the fighters was named Zane. He was young, strong, and very full of himself. He liked showing off. He had won many fights by knocking people out. People said Zane would be a big star soon. But Zane had a big problem. He liked being mean to people he thought were weak. Zane leaned on the ring and laughed loudly. He looked at Elias, who was mopping near the benches. Then Zane smiled in a mean way. "Hey, old man." Zane shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Be careful where you mop. You don't want to fall and break your hip." Some fighters laughed at Zane's joke. But Elias didn't say anything. He just kept mopping, quiet and calm. That made Zane angry. He wanted Elias to react. Zane liked it when people felt small around him. So Zane walked over to Elias. Then, with a fast kick, Zane knocked over the water bucket. The dirty water splashed everywhere. It soaked Elias's shoes and made a big mess. The gym became quiet. Zane looked around, smiling like he had done something cool. Some fighters looked at each other but didn't say anything. Others just turned away, pretending they didn't see. Elias didn't get mad. He didn't yell. He just sighed softly and put the mop aside. Then he got down on one knee and started cleaning the water with a small cloth from his belt. He worked slowly, carefully, just like always. Zane frowned. He didn't like that Elias didn't care. Zane wanted attention. He wanted power. But Elias didn't give him any of that. He just kept cleaning like Zane wasn't even there. Zane walked over again. "What's the matter, huh?" Zane said, crouching down next to him. "You're not even gonna say anything?" Still, Elias didn't talk. He kept wiping the floor. Zane's smile faded for a moment. Then he laughed and said, "Guess that's all you are now, just a cleaner." Zane stood up and brushed off his hands, as if being near Elias made him dirty. A quiet watcher. In the corner of the gym, near the speed bags, a man was sitting. He was quiet and still. It was Jason Statham. He had big shoulders and strong arms. But tonight, he was just sitting watching. He had seen everything that happened. Just like Elias, no one had noticed him. Statham didn't say anything, but he saw it all. Zane being mean. The other fighters doing nothing. And Elias staying calm. The gym got loud again. People started punching and talking. But Statham didn't move. He sat with his hands together, elbows on his knees. His eyes stayed on Elias. He looked serious, like he was thinking hard. Elias was still wiping the wet floor. His hands moved slowly and steady. He didn't look sad. He didn't look mad. He just looked peaceful. Statham reached into his pocket and pulled out a cloth to dry his hands. Something small fell out and hit the wet floor. It was a metal badge. It spun for a moment and then stopped at Statham's feet. The badge was old but shiny. It was a symbol from the military. Statham looked at it. He didn't pick it up right away. He just stared at it for a long time. He remembered something. He had seen a badge like that before. It was worn by brave men who had gone to war. Men who fought not for trophies, but to protect each other. It wasn't just a piece of metal. It meant something: honor, sacrifice, strength. Elias reached out to pick it up. But Statham was faster. He picked up the badge and held it in his big hand. His thumb moved over it gently. He looked at Elias. Elias looked back. Just for a second. And in that second, something passed between them. Like a secret. Like they both understood something big. Statham held out the badge. Elias took it quietly. He nodded once, then put it safely in his pocket. No words were said. None were needed. Statham leaned back. He let out a breath through his nose. His face didn't change much. But inside, he had made a decision. He didn't come to the gym just to train anymore. He was going to stay. To do something more important. The bully returns. The gym was noisy again. But the air still felt heavy, like something was still wrong. Elias kept working, cleaning the mess like nothing had happened. But Zane, he wasn't done. He had a bad day of training earlier. He had fought with someone better than him. His pride was hurt. And Zane didn't like feeling weak. So, like always, he looked for someone to hurt. His eyes landed on Elias again. Elias's calm face, his quiet way. It made Zane feel powerless. And Zane hated that. He wanted to show he was in charge. That he was the strongest. Zane pushed away from the ring ropes. And walked toward Elias. His fists were tight. He looked mad. Some fighters noticed. But they didn't do anything. They didn't want trouble. They thought, it's just the janitor. Zane shouted, "Hey, I asked you something earlier, old man." Elias didn't stop mopping. He didn't say a word. Zane snapped. He shoved Elias hard on the shoulder. Elias stumbled a little, his knee almost giving out. But he caught himself and stood up straight. He turned slowly to face Zane. His face didn't change. He didn't look angry. He didn't look scared. He looked like Elias. Calm. Still. Zane got even madder. Then he saw something shiny near the bench. It was the same badge Statham had picked up earlier. Zane walked over and grabbed it. He rolled it between his fingers. He looked at Elias and laughed. "This is yours." Zane asked, "What is this?" "Some war prize." Elias looked at the badge for a second. Then I looked away. Zane smiled, feeling like he was winning. "You were in the army, huh?" Zane said, whistling. "Look at you now. A mop, a bucket. And probably can't even afford lunch." Some fighters looked uncomfortable. But again, no one said a thing. Elias's hands gripped the mop just a tiny bit tighter. Not a lot. Just enough for someone really watching to notice. And someone was watching. Statham stands up. Statham hadn't moved from his seat. But his eyes were locked on Zane. His jaw clenched just a little. Zane tossed the badge into the air, caught it again, and smiled. "What do you think, old man?" Zane said, "Maybe I should keep this. Remind everyone what happens when you get weak." He laughed again. Elias didn't answer. But something changed in his eyes. Not because of Zane's words, but because of old, deep memories. Statham saw it. The badge fell again, hitting the floor with a soft clink. It lay there, shining under the gym lights. No one spoke. The fighters who used to laugh now looked unsure. Zane stood tall, but his joke didn't land this time. And then, Statham stood up. Zane stood over the badge, his arms crossed. He had a crooked smile on his face. All around them, the gym became very quiet. The fighters who had been practicing stopped what they were doing. The trainers who had been shouting instructions stopped too. No one talked. No one moved. Everyone was watching. Because deep down, they all knew something bad had just happened. Elias, who was always calm and slow, got down on one knee. He was old, and his joints hurt, but he didn't show it. He reached out with his hand to pick up the badge. But just before he could grab it, Zane stepped forward. He put his foot right on the shiny metal badge. The sound of his shoe scraping on the metal was soft. But in the quiet gym, everyone could hear it. "Pick it up," Zane said. "On your knees like a good little janitor." His voice wasn't loud. But it was mean, really mean. His words felt like a snake, sliding into the room. Sharp and cold. Elias froze. His hand was just a little bit above the ground. His back was bent from age. But he still had his pride. He didn't look up at Zane. But he didn't need to. The pain was already on his face. No one in the gym said a word. No one moved. Then, from the far corner of the room, a chair made a loud scraping sound. Everyone turned their heads slowly. It was Statham. He stood up. He didn't talk. He didn't act tough. He just walked. He moved like a big, strong tree that had lived through many storms, but was still standing tall. His eyes were on Zane. There was no anger, just a quiet warning. Zane scoffed. But something small, just a flicker, showed on his face. Maybe surprise. Maybe nervousness. Statham didn't stop walking. He came closer, step by step, each one slow and steady, like a clock counting down to something big. The fighter stepped out of the way without thinking. Elias picked up the badge slowly. He didn't look at Zane. He didn't look at Statham. He just held the badge tightly in his hand. And Statham kept walking, right into the middle of the gym. The room felt different now. It was heavy, like a big weight was in the air. No one could see it, but they all felt it. Statham kept walking, eyes still on Zane, like a lion watching its prey. He wasn't in a hurry. He didn't need to be. Each step said something. I'm not afraid. I've been through worse. You better be ready. Zane stood up straighter. He rolled his shoulders. He was trying to look strong, but something in his stomach felt tight. Oh, come on, Zane said, grinning. But the grin wasn't strong. Are you really gonna act like a hero now? His voice was still loud, still full of pride. But now there was something else. A little fear. Statham stopped just a few feet away. He stood between Zane and Elias. At first, he didn't say anything. He just looked at Zane, with tired eyes. Eyes that had seen a lot. Eyes that had lived a long, hard life. Then Statham spoke. His voice was low and rough. You think that makes you strong? He asked. Zane laughed a little and crossed his arms. I think it means I don't take garbage from anyone, he said. Especially not some old janitor. But before he could finish his sentence, Statham stepped closer. Now he was so close that Zane had to look up a little to see him. Some of the younger fighters held their breath. Strength, Statham said, his voice like a growl, isn't about stepping on people below you. It's not about talking big, when you know no one will stop you. He tilted his head. His face is hard to read. But that's all you got, huh? He asked. Just your mouth. Your fists. That's what makes you feel like a man. Zane's jaw tightened. He was getting mad. Yeah, Zane said, his voice sharper. And what makes you? Your old glory days? You're washed up. Just like him. The gym got even more tense. Some of the fighters looked at each other. Some were nervous. Some looked excited. Elias stood to the side, holding his badge, his eyes looking down. He had seen this kind of thing before. Young men needing to prove something, even when there was nothing to prove. Statham breathed out through his nose. He shook his head. You got a lot of words, he said quietly. But let me tell you something, kid. Words don't matter when you step into the cage. It felt like a challenge, big and loud. Even though it was said so softly, Zane opened his mouth. But he didn't say anything right away. Just for a second. He waited. Everyone in the gym was watching. Zane had a reputation. He was supposed to be the next big thing. And now this old man, this guy with gray hair and tired eyes, was calling him out. Zane laughed. But it didn't sound real. Are you serious? He asked. He pointed to the MMA cage in the middle of the gym. You want to fight me? Right now. Statham didn't blink. You want to find out? He said. The laughter stopped in Zane's throat. He didn't know if it was Statham's voice, or the way he stood, calm still like a mountain. But something made Zane nervous. He couldn't say no. Not in front of everyone. Not now. Fine, Zane said, nodding. You want it? You got it. People in the gym started talking. Some looked excited. Some looked worried. A trainer stepped forward. You guys want to do this for real? He asked. Then we do it right. Official rules. In the cage. Zane turned to him, eyes full of fire. "Fine by me. Get the gloves." The trainer nodded and waved for someone to bring the gear. Everyone moved quickly. They started getting the cage ready. The energy in the gym was different again. Statham turned and looked at Elias. For the first time in a long time, their eyes met. They didn't need words. Something passed between them. Something deep. Elias gave a small nod. That was enough. Statham cracked his knuckles. He rolled his shoulders. This wasn't just a fight. It was something bigger. Something that meant more. Fighters who had been packing their bags stopped. Trainers leaned on the cage walls. Phones came out. People started recording. Word spread fast. Zane, the gym's top young fighter, was about to fight Jason Statham. Some younger fighters smiled. They thought Zane would win easily. Others weren't so sure. Zane stood in his corner, bouncing on his feet, rolling his shoulders. He looked confident. He was younger, stronger, faster. He had trained for this his whole life. Across from him, Statham moved slowly, carefully stretching. He didn't try to show off. He didn't act cool. He just stood calm and quiet. He looked like a man who didn't need to prove anything, but still had something to teach. The referee stepped into the cage. He looked at both of them. "You both know the rules," he said. "This is a clean fight. Touch gloves if you want." Zane didn't move. He just smiled a little and stared at Statham. Statham didn't seem to care. He nodded once and stepped back. The bell rang. Zane ran forward. Fast, super fast. He threw a quick punch right towards Statham's face. It hit. A clean hit. The gym exploded with sound. Cheers, shouts, excitement. Zane kicked Statham's leg really hard. Then he kicked again. He was fast. He was sharp. He looked strong and in control. Statham took the hits. His jaw was tight, but his body didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't back away. He just watched Zane. Zane pretended to punch, then went low. He grabbed Statham's legs and slammed him to the ground. The gym was filled with cheers. Zane moved quickly, trying to hold Statham down. He wrapped his arms around Statham's neck. It was a strong choke hold. Was the fight already over? Some fighters shaking their heads. One of them said, "This is gonna be quick." Zane squeezed harder. He smiled as he tried to end the fight. He could feel Statham getting weaker. But then he felt something strange. Statham was calm. He wasn't scared. He wasn't fighting back. Zane started to worry. His hold was tight, but Statham was just waiting. He was thinking. Then suddenly, in one fast move, Statham twisted his body, slipped his chin out, and broke free. Zane was surprised. Before he could do anything, Statham stood up again. The crowd got quiet. No one smiled anymore. Zane was mad. He thought, that should have ended it. He ran forward, trying to attack again. He kicked. He punched. But something was different now. Statham wasn't just standing still. He moved in a smart way. He dodged Zane's attacks. He stayed just out of reach. Zane kept trying, but each hit missed. It wasn't because Statham was scared. It was because he was careful. Then Statham punched. Not fast, but right where it hurt. He hit Zane in the ribs. Zane stepped back, surprised. That punch hurt more than it should have. Zane's face changed. He was no longer sure of himself. Statham didn't chase him. He just waited, rolling his shoulders. He looked relaxed. Zane growled. He ran forward again. He punched wildly. But Statham stayed calm. Every time Zane missed, he got more tired. His punches lost their power. Minutes passed. Zane breathed hard. His arms felt heavy. His legs slowed down. Statham saw it. He had seen this before. Young fighters thinking they can win by hitting hard and fast. But they forget to save energy. Then everything changed. Statham stopped dodging. He started punching back. The first punch hit Zane's jaw. It didn't knock him out, but it was a message. I'm still here. Then another punch. This one to Zane's stomach. It made Zane gasp for air. He stepped back again, breathing hard. His eyes showed fear. Statham didn't stop. Another punch. Then one more. Each punch landed perfectly. Each one made Zane weaker. The gym got very quiet. No one cheered now. Everyone just watched. All they could hear was Zane breathing loudly, and the sound of Statham's punches. Zane tried one last big swing. He missed. In that moment, Statham stepped in close. He grabbed Zane's arm, twisted it, and threw Zane to the ground. Boom. The whole gym shook. Before Zane could get up, Statham locked him in a chokehold. It wasn't mean. It wasn't meant to hurt. It was just enough to make Zane give up. Zane struggled for a moment. Then, finally, he tapped the mat with his hand. That meant he gave up. The fight was over. The referee ran in and pulled them apart. Statham let go right away. He stood up, breathing easy. Zane stayed on the ground, chest moving fast. He had lost. His pride was hurt. The gym stayed silent. Then the sound of footsteps. Statham walked over to Zane. He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. He looked at Zane with care. Zane looked up at him. He thought Statham would say something mean, but he didn't. Instead, Statham held out his hand. Zane waited a moment, then took it. Statham pulled him up. Strength, he said softly, isn't just about hitting hard. Zane looked at him. He didn't say anything, but something changed in his eyes. He was not the same person who had entered the cage. He had learned something big. Zane stayed on his knees for a moment. He was breathing hard. His body hurt. But that wasn't the worst part. The real pain was inside. He had believed that being strong meant being in control. That respect could be taken by force. But now he knew he was wrong. He looked down at the mat. His jaw was tight. His heart beat fast. No one laughed. No one made fun of him. Everyone had seen the moment it all changed. The moment Zane saw he wasn't as tough as he thought. Statham stood in front of him. He was calm. He didn't look like someone who had just won a hard fight. His eyes didn't show pride. They showed understanding. Zane forced himself to look up. His pride said, "Stay down." But something inside told him to stand. He breathed out. Then slowly, he reached out. Statham grabbed his arm and helped him stand up in one smooth motion. Zane wiped sweat from his face. He looked around the gym. Some fighters stared at him with respect. Others still looked shocked. Then he saw Elias. Elias stood near the cage, holding a small badge in his hands. For the first time, Zane really saw him. He walked slowly toward Elias. His pride still hurts, but he knew what he had to do. "I was wrong," Zane said softly. "I'm sorry." Elias looked at him for a moment. Then he nodded. Just a little nod. But it meant everything. The bad feeling in the air faded. It felt like the clouds had moved away. The sun was shining again. Elias looked at the badge in his hand. He ran his fingers over it. It wasn't just a shiny piece of metal. It was part of who he was. He had carried it for years. Not just to remember, but because it still meant something. Zane stood still. He was breathing slower now. He had told the truth. He had said sorry. Not because he had to, but because it was right. Elias looked at Zane. He saw something new in him. Zane stood differently now. No more puffed up chest. No more trying to look tough. Just quiet respect. "You earned this," Elias said. He held out the badge. Zane frowned. "No," he said quietly. "I didn't." Elias didn't let him finish. He put the badge in Zane's hand. "Not for winning," Elias said. "For learning." Zane looked down at the badge. It felt heavy. He closed his hand around it. He nodded. He couldn't say anything more. Statham stepped forward. He put his hand on Zane's shoulder. It was strong and steady. Not like a winner showing off, but like a teacher. someone who had been there too. Zane looked up at him. "What's the most important thing a fighter should know?" he asked. Statham looked him in the eye. "A real fighter doesn't just fight in the ring," he said. "He fights for what's right." Zane nodded. He let the words sink in. The gym started to feel normal again. People moved around. They trained. They stretched. But something had changed. The silence was gone. But the feeling of the moment stayed. Zane turned to look at Elias one more time. He didn't need to speak. He just gave him a nod. Elias nodded back. Then he tucked his rag into his belt and went back to work. His steps were lighter now. In the corner, Statham watched. His arms crossed. A small smile on his face. He had come to train. To stay sharp. But now he knew something else. He had been there for a bigger reason. And that was better than any win. Enjoyed the story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always love chatting with you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss the next wild ride. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, stay curious and keep the adventure alive.